Hi guys. Kind of in a superhero place at the moment. So while I was at it, I decided to do a little video on a few stones that are quite similar, yet still very different. The first one is the new Xerax 3000 grit stone from Superhero. It's a soaking stone. I'll show you a bit on that later. It's moderately fast, and it usually comes attached to a stand. I ripped it off because I didn't like it. I like my stones like this without the stand. The second stone is the Superhero Oka 3000 grit. You see they're quite similar in color and size as well, so you could be mistaken to thinking that they are quite similar. They even almost got the same numbers stamped on them. The Superhero Oka is in the same family of stones that the Rika and the Shiramine, which are quite fast stones, and at least the Rika is it's quite known for being a very good stone. The Shiramine tends to not be as much talked about. I think both the Rika and the Shiramine are quite similar in both speed and feel, and so if you got the Rika, I wouldn't know why you should get the Shiramine. Yeah. The third one is the Superhero Debado LD 601, the 4000 grit stone in the Debado series. I know it's 4000 grit. It's of course 1000 grit finer. I didn't get the Debado in the 3000 grit. I don't think you can, but you can see the size and the color as well. It's quite similar, and the grit is comparable. So these are three quite similar in appearance, but they are, as you will see, quite different stones, and they serve different purposes as well. So I believe that too many people cares too much about the grit of the stone, and don't pay as much attention to the speed of the stone, because one, as you will see, this is 4000 grit stone. It's a polishing stone. It's excellent for finishing of the job, and whilst this Superhero Oka is a very much faster stone, it'll give you an edge with a more bite to it. So if you say are aiming for an 8000 grit finish, this will be a great intermediate stone to get off it very fast and go on to the 8000 grit stone, whilst this one will be a good polishing, like, finisher stone for, say, carbon steel. This one would give your stainless steel a good bite, and this new Xerax is somewhere in between. So the first thing I like to do when I get new stones is to check. Of course, I get some reading done, obviously, but I like to check them out. And if we start with the let's start with the Oka, and I'll just let some water drip onto it to see what happens. And I don't know if you can see it here, but the water is soaking into the stone, and so this is a soaking stone. So this one will need to soak. We'll do the same with the new Xerax. You see here, even faster. It'll just soak right up into the stone. So this time it tells me this needs to be soaked as well. This one is a tad more porous than the Oka. You can tell by the way the water absorbs into it. Well, you can see the water that I spilled onto the Zuhiro Debato is still sitting on the side here. Hence, if I get some water on it, it'll just run right off. So this is not a soaking stone. This is a splash and go stone. So if we test this out a little bit further, we'll start with the Oka. I'll put it in some water, and I don't know if it comes through. There is no bubbles whatsoever, but we do know it's taken on some water. So leave it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just to make sure that the water has soaked into the stone. If we do the same with the new Serax, I'll just take this out for reference. You immediately hear the bubbles as well. So this one probably needs a little bit more soaking time. Just put this out as well, and just to because why not? The splash and go stone obviously don't pull any water. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to leave this one out. I'm going to soak the new Serax for a little while, and I'm going to soak the Oka as well. And we're back. So that's a good 10 minutes. Both stone had a good soak. The new Serax have still some tiny bubbles coming out of it, but I reckon we are good to go. So I'm just going to put this down here, and I'll put this over here, and just put away some of my other stones here. And yeah, so which one should we check out first? So, well, let's start with the Oka. So this is the Zuhiro Oka. This would be my go-to stone if, say, I wanted a edge with a really good bite to it, or if I was aiming at continuing onto, say, an 8000 grit stone. Other possible reasons could be that I'm doing a polishing job, or something where I want to, a larger job where I want to have good increments. Because as long as you're doing like small bevels like this, there is no problem with jumping from an 800 to 1000 grit up towards an 800 to around 800,000 to 8,000. That should be no problem. But if you're doing wider bevels, like the primary bevel on this knife, I would seek to do smaller increments or smaller jump in grits to make sure that I have an even progression and don't have to go back to remove scratches from before, and to speed up, of course. So this would be a great stone for the latter, or if, say, you wanted a, well, jump forward to a finer grit after this one. But as you can see immediately, this stone is removing quite a bit of steel. I'll let you listen to it as well. I'll do the other side. You can see just how much metal this stone is removing, while still giving, like, okay, I'm a sucker for soft stones and soaking stones because they give such great feedback, and the friction on this stone with this knife is just excellent. There's no problem telling what the stone is doing to the knife. And I'll just do like so. Where is my... Yeah, just had to get some paper towel just to give you a proper look, and the strap as well if we needed it. So let's give it another go. Yeah, that's a little bit better, and that's not too bad. Of an edge. Let's just try to remove the burr to see what we have underneath. Just quick like that. Boom, yeah. That's a decent edge and record time. So, still with a good bite. That's a lot of metal. So now we're going to the new Cerex, which is a soaking stone as well, as you saw. We'll try to do a few passes on it and see if we can compare it to the Oka. And I'm applying about the same amount of force, and you can clearly see that while we still are removing quite a bit of metal, it's almost like the particles are a little bit finer, and it's, while still being a lot, it's not nearly as much as before. And you can see we have some clogging on the stone. It's the larger pores in this stone that is catching some of the metal particles, which means that if we're doing larger jobs, we would maybe have to stop, clean the stone up while we are working to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. Still get great feedback on it. Not as much friction as on the Oka, but compared to other comparable stones and the same grit range, we are not too shabby. So this would be a great finishing stone for stainless steel, and could also be one as well for carbon steel if you're not aiming for that high gloss finish, and if you don't mind a little bite, which I don't. I prefer it, to be honest, especially when I'm using my knife for, you know, say slicing bread and stuff like that. So let's see if we can notice a difference. A little finer, if I dare say so. It can of course just be a coincidence, and but not as much of a bite as the Oka. A little smoother on the cup. Just try stropping it as well. A couple of strops on each side, and see if I can notice a difference. So yeah, this is a lot more smooth compared to the Oka, and a great place to stop, really, to be honest. You don't always have to go to the higher grits to get a good clean edge. And then just for funsies, let's have a look at the Bado LD 4000 grit stone, which then again is a splash and go. We'll do a couple of passes and see what it does. So we would expect this stone to be finer. And you can see compared to the other stones, it doesn't remove nearly as much material as they do. We are only talking about 1000 grit difference, which to be honest is not a lot. The stone is significantly harder, which means that I have no problems working edge leading on this stone with quite a bit of a force. Well, of course, still being careful not to raise the knife too high, though, because it will bite into the stone regardless if you go with too high of an angle. But still, it's a very comfortable stone to work on. You can work with some speed without being too, without being too worried about the knife biting into the stone. So let's see if we got a different edge from this one. And then again, this is not a scientific way to do it, but it's, so yeah, not too different from the last. The new Cerex, but we will do a few, strop it a little bit as well as we did with the other two, and check it out. So yeah, a finer, cleaner cut than the Oka. Very similar to the 3000 new Cerex. To be honest, I would be hard pressed to notice a difference. So yeah, got 3 very great stones, 3 very different uses. The new Cerex, I would use it primarily as a finishing stone because of its lack of speed. But you don't, then again, you don't want too much speed in a polishing stone because you're just doing the final touches. The new Cerex is a great in-between stone. If you're unsure which direction you want to go in, it's a good choice. It sits kind of in the middle. The Oka is a great stepping stone, literally, for finer grits, or if you want that edge with a really bite to it. So in terms of speed, you have the Oka, which is the fastest one, the new Cerex, which is a little bit slower, and the Debado LD, which is on the slower side again. In terms of hardness, you would go the same way. You have the other way, the opposite way, the LD, the Debado, that is the hardest stone, then the new Cerex, and then the Oka, which is very soft. And so just wanted to have a look at those, point out the differences, the similarities, and kind of just shed some light that it's not just about grits. The hardness of the stone has a lot to say as well, and what you want to use the stone for. So yeah, some thoughts from my some of my opinions. I'm not an authority on this, but that's just what I feel about it. If you disagree, or if you agree, just let me know down in the comments and we'll have a chat. And yeah, so I hope you liked the video. I'll see you guys in a few days, I hope. So have a good day.